Next up, we're talking about major free agents heading into this offseason. It's not a great star-studded list, maybe in terms of guys that have gotten all-star nods over their career, but it does have some solid role players and some guys that are definitely going to get overpaid as well. We're looking at a couple of young guys here. I think how we should do this segment is I'll name off some guys, and I want you to just immediately rattle off what team you think they're going to sign with and how much money and how many years they're going to get.
Okay, I like that.
So
let's see.
So let's go. DeAndre Ayton, restricted free agent, currently Phoenix Sun.
DeAndre Ayton's going to sign not a max, but close to. I think he's going to sign like a 4-year, $30 million a year with the Sun. He's going to re-sign with the Suns.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the success they've had this year, you can still see such a huge part of it. And the reason they need to pay him is because of the games against the Jazz and the Bucks and, stuff like that. You need Ayton to defend guys like Giannis and Gobert and whatnot.
Yeah. And have an inside presence as well as he is. I mean, Booker's great. Bridges is great. Chris is great, but to have such a nice interior offense built around his game, that's very much needed. And you can't ask that out of JaVale McGee or Frank the Tank or any of those players.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a beast. He'll go 2 possessions in a row where he'll get a block immediately down the next end. He'll have a nice pick and roll for an alley-oop, or he'll get an offensive rebound for a putback dunk. He's consistently there. He's always making plays.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Next guy, TJ Warren. Where is he going to sign? He's currently an Indiana Pacer.
TJ Warren is going to sign a $12 million contract for 2 years with I feel like it's either he's going to sign So it's either he's going to sign a $12 million contract, a higher mid-level contract for a team for 2 years, like the Sacramento Kings, or he's going to get $25 million from a shitty team like the Magic or the Pistons, because they're the ones with all the cap space. Just to make money, and the Magic and Pistons will just do it. I can see the Magic doing it just because they're we have money and they do this all the time. Granted, I hope they change, but they're just oh, we'll pay him. Fuck it.
Yeah, just because they're why not? We're not going to spend it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how you end up with bad contracts.
Indeed. But I can see him going to a team like the Kings. I'm interested in his fit in the Hornets. However, I think the Hornets have really crowded front court, and I think they're going to be signing Miles Bridges.
Yeah, I think TJ Warren probably makes a lot of sense on the Knicks.
Yep.
They kind of need some more scoring over there. Guy on the perimeter. I think that could help them out a lot.
Yeah, he fits their need for giving large contracts to players who are good but not good enough.
Yeah, he's right in that tier of guys they give contracts to.
Right.
Next guy, probably the best player outside of DeAndre Ayton, definitely the best unrestricted player, Zach LaVine.
I think LaVine's going to ultimately sign with the Bulls again after all the success. How can he walk away? However, I do think I don't think he's not considering other teams. And I think there's a lot of sign and trade potential. Especially, I mean, the Lakers are always in this conversation. I doubt they could put anything together.
There's no way they could pull that off.
Yeah, there's no way.
No way.
Rockets, no. Wizards.
I think like the Hawks or the Grizzlies are the only options I could think of that can make sense because they actually have something they could give back. But I think ultimately, after all the success this year, how could you leave the Bulls? I know there was definitely some passive aggressiveness he's been pointing out in the media before by him thinking he didn't get his extension sooner, because they weren't offering him the max. But, I think he definitely should get the max from them because, if they're not going to give it to him, he's just going to go get it somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be stupid not to. I mean, they can. And the Bulls, they have all this talent with them, whether Whether it's enough or not, we'll see in the playoffs and whatever they need to
but
add.
their window's open.
Star power. Yeah, they're not missing star power, so they gotta toss them whatever money. It's just if
this
you're filling
yeah. This is their window. They have to go for it. You get a guy like Zach LaVine in the building, you got to keep him there. He's only gotten better over his years there. Like, sure, he's not a good defender, but offensively, he continues to transcend. And we've seen with many players, like, you don't have to be a great defender.
Yeah, I mean, he's turned it under Billy Donovan. He's turned into maybe not the smartest team defender, but he's turned out to be a decent on-ball defender, actually, when he has the motivation to win and it's all there. So it's not like his defense is a complete liability. He's still an on-ball. Still, you want to have those elite defenders like Alex Caruso, like Lonzo Ball on that team, and they do. So why would you want to leave that? You have anything you need.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I would consider him more the face of the team than DeMar just because he's been there longer. But right now they're like a two-headed dragon. So I think it's sick.
Three-headed dragon and Vucevic finally gets back together.
Yeah, that's true. Next guy, Jalen Brunson is unrestricted. Currently a Dallas Maverick. What do you think?
I think if anybody has the potential to change teams, it's Jalen Brunson. And I can see him going to a place like the Knicks, where the Knicks are going to toss any money towards him. They're like, you know what? He raises our ceiling just a little bit. Here's all the money. And I can see the Mavs being like, oh, well, we lost him.
It'd be such
should have gave him that extension. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be such a shame. I feel like the Mavericks should be trying to keep him. Especially like, why lose him for nothing? Like, you guys could have traded him during the season.
Right. No, yeah, that's right. That's 100% right. However, I feel like the Knicks are willing to pay him more than the Mavs will be. And maybe. that might be the downfall. We'll see. I don't, but I also don't like his fit on the Mavs. I do think he's a great player. I think he's awesome. But I like watching him run the offense, and playing next to Luka, he's shown he's less effective because he's a really nice playmaker.
Yeah, so I'm guessing really nice. Like, he probably wants to go to a new team to open up his game more. Like, I'm sure he enjoys being around Luka and the great talent, but he's just going to always be in his shadow there. Whereas if he goes somewhere else where they need a primary ball handler, like, he can really fill a role and become maybe a better player even.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a sign and trade in the works. I think this might be the very possible or biggest sign and trade. I think the Wizards would love to have him. I mean, make another trade with the Mavs. The Wizards would love to have him. Obviously, I mentioned the Knicks. They'd like to have him. There's a lot of teams.
Yep, you mentioned the Knicks.
Obviously, the Lakers will do anything for him.
Yeah, Lakers ain't getting anyone.
Right.
They trapped. But Portland's been trying to free up some cap space. They do have Dame Lillard, so maybe that doesn't make a ton of sense. But I don't know. Maybe the Clippers, if they want to do a sign and trade.
Clippers, yeah. I think the 76ers would love to have him.
I think they would
obviously
too.
Harden would like to have a guy. Harden loves having a guy that Harden doesn't like playing point guard.
Yeah. So do you think like Mavericks would make it happen to bring back Tobias Harris?
Possibly Tobias Harris, or maybe I think they'd be very interested in Matisse Thybulle and maybe like Shake Milton or something like that. I think you could put together something like that.
Yeah, Thybulle would be great.
But I doubt, maybe now that I'm thinking about Tyrese Maxey, I think the 76ers are pretty bought into him. They like him a lot, so maybe not there.
Yeah, they're not trading him. No, there's no way. He's had a great season. But let's talk about free agents here. Anthony Simons, restricted free agent. Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah. Portland, he's staying in Portland. I mean, Portland would be stupid. They'd have to be the worst franchise in the league to trade away McCollum for him and then not sign him on money. I think they're definitely going to sign him. He does. His free agency actually, plus Nurkic, opens up some pretty big flexibility because they can play with. They have about 15 to 20 million in cap that's going to be freed up, and if they wait to sign him until after they sign someone else. They can sign him off bird rights. So they've given him that cap so that it opens up where they can sign a guy. That's assuming they don't re-sign Nurkic, by the way. So they can go out and they can sign like a TJ Warren. They can go out and get him, or they can get a couple of guys like Harrell or whatever. They can pay them and then sign him after. So that I no doubt they're going to go ahead and sign him with the money. But I think they're going to be waiting on it. It's going to be later on in the free agency so they can use his bird rights.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure he ends up back with the Blazers. Like they traded away CJ McCollum to free up playing time for him, and he's looked great in those opportunities. So I don't see him going anywhere. Right. Another guy I don't see going anywhere, but want to bring him up regardless. Miles Bridges, restricted free agent for the Hornets. I think like the only way he potentially leaves is if another team throws a max at him and the Hornets decides that they don't want to match that, but maybe they do match a max.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes down to it because look at a team like the Pistons, right? You see a guy like Miles, and you have pieces in there like Jeremy Grant. You have pieces in there like Cade Cunningham. They're going to have a good pick this year. Do they pull the trigger and try to pull in a guy like Miles? Do they offer him the max and say, you know what, we can do it? And they're like, with this draft pick, depends who they draft. Say they draft a Paolo, or maybe a Chet. Obviously, I think is their perfect. Then that's a pretty decent team. That'd be great
noise.
So and then it comes down.
Yeah, have a good core to be for the future. I mean, Cade already looks fantastic, and Miles Bridges. I mean, he would fit really great with that team. I think he makes a lot of sense on the Kings if they found a way to free up money. And like have him as like a three-headed monster with Fox and Sabonis. I feel like that'd be a decent big three.
That would be nice. I could see the Rockets obviously reaching for him. I think he would be awesome on the Rockets too. I mean, he'd have shooters around him. KPJ with Jalen Green. I think it wouldn't be the worst fit, but the Rockets are the type to want exciting star power like him, like where he's super fun to watch. So I could see them try to bring him in. But I think it's just really dependent on how much he ends up going for, Yeah.
Like I think like 4 years, 115 million is what I see him landing at. But, do you see someone maybe offering more than that?
Yeah, I can see him, I can see him getting offered 30 from someone like the Knicks or the Pistons. Like it's that small market tax for the Pistons if they want to get something. So I can see, I think it ultimately comes down. I think the money will be there for him. I think it ultimately comes down to whether the Hornets match it or not. And that might be I think it's like to us, like he's obviously a good talent, but I think it's going to be a tough decision for the Hornets because they're like, if they lock him in, then suddenly the only way they get rid of him is trading him, and they might be some free agents down the road. It's a tough commitment. So I think it comes down to the Hornets.
Right. No, it's tough giving a max to a guy who's not quite worth the max, but or slightly less than the max, whatever he ends up wanting. But I'm guessing I'm guessing he wants the maximum amount of money he can get.
I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, who wouldn't? I'm sure he would.
That's probably what you're gunning for. So we'll see where that ends up. Another restricted free agent I want to talk about, Collin Sexton, currently on injured reserve for this whole season. So that's kind of an interesting one.
Didn't he sign I thought he signed a small contract or something. Hold on.
I thought he had, but it seems that maybe they were only in discussions. I don't think it ever got signed, and then he got hurt. So
yeah,
kind of for him. I remember I think they had offered him like 4 years, 100 million, but he wanted more.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, he's a guy. If I were the Mavs, I'd go after. I think he'd be a nice fit next to Luka. He's obviously not the lead ball handler, but he's a very good off-ball type player. I mean,
great scorer.
Yeah, he can do it on his own too. I think he's worth going after for them.
Yeah, I think first off and first most, or how the hell that saying goes. Do the Cavs want to keep him?
I don't think so. I think the Cavs are going to kind of shop him around in a sign and trade or something like that. I mean, sign and trades are always going to happen now. They're going to be a huge thing. So I think they're going to be shopping around. He's shown not to be a good fit, and I think they've taken off without him, and they're looking to fill something more complimentary rather than what he offers the team.
Yeah, I mean, they could easily do a sign and trade with him if he, signs with someone else that has like no room on their team. Like he would make sense on a lot of teams that need a scoring point guard. Like I thought like for sure that was going to be the guy that would make the most sense for the Sixers. Obviously they have James Harden now, so I don't really see that happening. But I don't know. There's got to be another team out there. I just can't even think of one that needs like
I can see the Spurs throwing a bunch of assets to get him. I think he'd be pretty nice. I mean, at the very least, be interested. Him and DeJounte Murray, how well they would do, and I think they could. I don't know. They have guys. They have McDermott.
I think he'd be good on the Heat. I just wonder what they could give up for him.
I don't think the Heat would be chasing him. I think the Heat like their team, and I don't think he fits what they would want. He's certainly if this was 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh yeah, the Heat would love a dog like that. But I don't think he fits their timeline. I think he's like he could go. I see him going to a rebuilding team. Not that he needs to rebuild, just that he's young, but I think he still needs to fall into his role a lot more.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. Like maybe I don't know. It seems like a lot of young teams have guards, though, is the problem.
Right.
Like I keep thinking like Oklahoma City has guards. Yeah, Orlando Magic has guards.
Definitely set.
Minnesota Timberwolves, they have guards.
Well, they're
not really rebuilding anymore, but
the guards Timberwolves could probably do for guards. Honestly, if I were the Timberwolves, depending upon what you give up for Sexton, I would take Sexton over Malik in a heartbeat. I think Malik would be more.
Yeah, Malik's our bench player. Are we gonna have Collin Sexton come off the bench?
Oh, you could have him as 6 man. I mean, I'm not convinced he's a starting. I'm not convinced he's a starter on a championship team. That's the only thing.
All right. Moving on from Collin Sexton. Dalton's been doing drugs. These guys have player options. I figured we'd touch on them.
Sure.
John Wall, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving. All these guys are opting into these and probably signing extensions with their current teams, right? The only exception is Kyrie. Like he'll take the player option, but we don't know if they're going to offer him an extension.
Yeah, I think there's not enough flexibility in people's caps for Beal to say, I want to go unrestricted. I don't see anything that would interest him. Like none of the teams with cap space, which are the Pistons, Magic, Pacers, and Spurs, none of them interest. If I were Bradley Beal, interest me. I'd want to win now. So I think he's definitely signing an extension. Obviously, yeah, Harden and Irving. I think Westbrook will accept his player for the same reasons. I don't think there's any place that he would want to go. I think he's accepting his player option.
There's no way anywhere else would pay him nearly as much either. I mean, it's like $44 million.
Yeah, I think the Rockets are going to beg John Wall not to take up his extension, and I think he will, and then he's going to get bought out halfway through the year.
Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to go. But, I mean, I think maybe what they're trying to gun for in Houston is like, hey, John, you see, like we didn't play it all this year, and now people are forgetting about you. Like, if we bought you out or if you didn't pick up your option, like you could go somewhere else and get playing time. But if you go into your option and keep playing, like you're going to continue to not play for us, and you're going to continue to be irrelevant, and no one's going to want you. Like, right. That's a decent argument. So John Wall's got a choice. Like, okay, do I want to go play for a team now after the Rockets screwed me over? Do I want to go redeem myself, play basketball? Because we know he asked the Rockets to start playing again this year because he just wants to play ball.
Yeah.
Does he make the choice between wanting to play ball or $44 million?
For me, it's $44 million. But I mean, I like basketball and everything, but $44 million.
But if you've already made $200 million,
yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think
he's made a lot of money already.
Yeah, I think it'll.
But that's a lot of money too.
I think it'll be a little bit of a surprise if he doesn't take it for me. I think, but I will be like, good
it would be a shock. But it would be like, all right, fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I want to see Westbrook not take it just because he's like so upset at like his experience in LA. That'd be fun.
I think that would be a nice shakeup, and I think the Lakers are hoping he doesn't do it either because that opens up the Lakers to get someone like any of these guys, even Ricky Rubio, even though he's going to be injured probably half the year next year. I think they'd love to have him rather. I mean,
maybe like a Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a very uneventful free agency.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's not a great one. I mean, these were the main names. Were there any others you thought of?
None that's going to be a shakeup. I think Covington's I can talk about when it comes to the Timberwolves. I think he's definitely someone they should go after. I think Harrell. I think Kyle Anderson will be interesting. Where I'm interested where he'll go because he can really fit anywhere.
Yeah. No, I think somewhere. Role players like that, they'll probably get bigger contracts than we expect. Like, in the teens of millions of dollars or whatever. Like Isaiah Hartenstein has had a really improved season. He's a free agent. Like he might get into the tens of millions per year just for the year he's had.
And Harrell's out there too. He might fit somewhere. Good. He's got a role.
Yeah, I like Harrell. I was surprised to see how small of assets in quality it took to bring him to Charlotte. Maybe they re-sign him, maybe go somewhere else. I think, there's some decent role player options like that. But the days of like stars in free agency just isn't the era that we're in. That's not happening. Like that used to happen a ton when Kevin Durant made it to free agency. LaMarcus Aldridge, he made it to free agency. It was a big deal that year. Dwight Howard one year, it used to be a big deal. They would go around, get courted by different teams, and you'd be like, oh, he's going to make his decision any day now. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, they make their decisions immediately, and it's stars don't make it there because they reached out their extensions because they're like, oh, I can just get the massive extension of unfathomable money, and then I'll just request a trade in a year or two.
Yeah, they get their cake and they eat it too nowadays, but
Exactly. I think the next collective bargaining agreement, they're going to shake things up a little bit because while it's great that players have power, sometimes they have a little bit too much power. They're just like, creating these super teams and like locking themselves in these extensions and then requesting trades, which I guess like in the long run, it's not that bad for the rebuilding team because like they trade them away and they get a bunch of assets anyways. But, it's still frustrating because it's like you get guys like James Harden, who was bought in at Houston and then, signs an extension. And then he's like, you know what? I don't want to be here anymore. And he just stops trying. And it's like the fans that you had built up over the years, now they're turning on you and that type of shit. And it just sucks to watch sometimes.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm just here to tell you guys, like and subscribe. Please do that. Also, comment below. Let us know what you guys thought about this video. If you want to roast us, roast us. If you want to compliment us, please. I need compliments.